But you want to know, I was there.
Yes, 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 yes. You
I
were
was
there.
I was there.
So, how did you find my name?
How did I find your name? So when your father and I moved down here, we got really connected to um, the Afrocentric, African centric community down here because it was small. When we moved down here, Charlotte was a lot smaller. Like you knew everybody who was in your circle, right? You just knew. And then you met someone and your circle got bigger. And Charlotte was slow. It's still slow, but it's not as slow as it was. So it was still slow, and it was still trying to find its footing in its identity and the people of color in their identity, and looking at the injustices that were going on in Charlotte, and just trying to really build a strong African centered community. So we came into that group. We fell not fell in I found the group, and your father kind of hung with me, like Auntie Maureen and Uncle Pete. And then we met a lot of people, just a lot of people who were just about building the Black community and African American community in Charlotte. And as we stayed in that community and we did more things, um, when I first got pregnant, I was like, I don't want my kids to have names. This is what I told your dad. I don't want my kids to have names like us. Like those are boring names. They're meaningless. They don't. And of course, he says, I know what my name means. So I was like, Negro, my name, Karen, all it says is that it's a derivative of Catherine. That means I'm fell from grace. I'm not a part of anything. My name has no meaning. And I said, it's important to have meaning to your name because it's almost like grounding you. It gives you purpose, right? It lifts you. You have to know it has to have something. Your name has to have like a story or something attached to it. I have an affinity toward the West African culture, but I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe it was the people I met down here. Maybe it's because your grandmother had been out there, had been to Africa. I think at that point, well, I know when I was a little kid, about two, three times, and she kept saying she saw people who looked like her father in Sierra Leone. So there was that kind of connection because you're always looking for some kind of connection to your ancestry, especially as African Americans. Everything was demolished pretty much or disregarded. So I said I want all of my children to have African names. I want their names to have a meaning, and I want their names to be what we would like for them. So we got some books, like two books. For you, we went through the books and we just I wrote down a list of names that I liked, and your dad wrote down a list of names that he liked. And then we would share the list, and then we would like cross things off if it didn't resonate. So one I remember with you, and we went back and forth. I forgot the name, but it meant prosperity. And his thing was, well, how do we know they're going to be rich? And is that what we want for them? I'm like, no, but you're looking at it the wrong way. So we went back and forth. So finally I said, you know what? Let's just get rid of it. Let's just get rid of it and move on. So we had a list of names. Then here you come, because your birth story is a story within itself. Then here you come. And I looked at you. That's another story. And I looked and I'm like, well, she doesn't look like a this and she doesn't look like a that. So while you were in the hospital, the nurse kept coming to my room and asking, when you going to name the baby? Because you were baby young. When you going to name the baby Presswood, one of the two. When you going to name her? What is the baby's name? Oh, we need to know because we need to write it on the social security card and the birth certificate. I said, but how much time do I have? I said, you have a week or like 2 weeks to name the baby because they need the name to register you for a social security card. I said, well, okay, so if you don't do it, who does it? They said, well, you would have to do it. You would have to just go through the paperwork and what have you. They always said it would be faster if we do it here. I said, but I don't just want to throw a name at her to make it fast. I just want to pick a name that's going to fit. So for a while you were there in the hospital, I called you lady because you let me sleep. I got sleep. I'm like, right now I'm just gonna call her lady, just lady, just lady. And I kept going down the list and I kept looking at you, kept going down the list and kept looking at you. And I said, you know what? She's so easygoing. She doesn't cry a lot. She sleeps through the night. She's like attentive and looking around. And I said, I'm gonna call her Hadia, which means gift. So your dad was like, but that's not like, that's, first of all, it wasn't West African. It was, Hadia is a Muslim name, it's an Arabic name. And your older siblings have more West African names, like Kenzie's name is from a different region. Ife's name is Yoruba. Kenzie's name, it just said West African, but yours said Arabic. And I said, I know, but Arabs are in Africa and her name is Muslim and they're in Africa. I said, so I like the name Gift. So we decided on Hadia and we needed a middle name. It was like, because Ife has my middle name and Kenzie has two middle names. So we could not land on a strong middle name that flowed with Hadia. You know what I'm saying? We just couldn't, we couldn't do it. I didn't want to name you Ruth, Hadia Ruth. That wasn't gonna work. Or Hadia Dorothy. That wasn't gonna work. So I was like, ew, no, because that energy is a lot.
Not Hadia Adrita either, huh?
No. No, Adrita is like, you got to really wear that thing. You got to wear some Adrita because that's a made up name.
Named after her dad, right? What's her dad? Edward?
Part. Part the for Ed.
Yeah.
You still got to wear that thing.
Yeah, man.
That would have been a lot for you because that energy is a lot.
That's funny. I feel like I could be a Ruth in some ways.
I guess. I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of the name, but I could see
I
it.
don't know. The Ruth I met was a little more quiet and subdued. Now you talk to your daddy about the Ruth he knows.
Oh, after she got done raising them kids. That's when
No, this is even as they were older. She was a spitfire. She wasn't always Granny Ruth.
No.
Yeah, she wasn't always Granny Ruth.
Yeah,
So
I have to hyphenate it like Shakora Ruth or something like
yes, that
something
part.
like kind of sassy at the beginning.
Yes.
But let me
Yes.
tone it down at the end so y'all don't get Shakora Ruth.
That's it. That's it. Shakora Ruth. I like that. I like that. So your dad says, so what day, what's her name on the day she was born? And I said, oh, Akua. I said, Hadia Akua. And it just flowed. It just flowed. So he said, well, she's not going to have another middle name like Kenzie. I said, no, she doesn't need to because this just flows. It just works. Like Hadia Akua, gift born on Wednesday. I said it was just, you didn't need anything else. Sometimes you try, like, less is more. You know what I'm saying? Less is
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So less is more. Yeah. So that's like, and that was it. It was perfect. And it was a perfect name because it suited you. We got you home. You slept through the night until you stopped sleeping through the night. It was like you couldn't be bothered with stuff. Fingers in your mouth, you were good to go. You nursed when you wanted to, and then when you would finish, you were like, and it was like, oh, this is easy. This is like, it's just real. It was just so easy. It was easy. You were always the one. You were always extremely observant. You didn't say much. You didn't do much, but you were always observant. From the time you were a baby, no meant no. You're like, if you had the words, you would have said, damn it, I said no. What the hell? No. And you would stick by that. That's why I used to call you Eveline. Dee Dee came from Hadia. Rita came from, I used to call you Skeeter Rita. Then I used to call you Skeet. And then that wasn't nice anymore because it took a whole new turn. The Urban Dictionary turned that one around.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember telling you that. I was
So
like,
it was like,
I'm in middle
it was,
school. My brain has been corrupted. So like,
yes. Yes. So I just call you, and still, like, I'll say Rita or I'll say D or Dee Dee. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get your name.
did y'all ever think about, well, you had to name us at the hospital, but a naming ceremony, like,
So I did. I know Kenzie had a naming ceremony. Kenzie and Ife was older because, okay, so remember when I was saying that the community was growing.
mm-hmm.
When I got down here, I met Obakunle through Maureen. And we just spent a lot of time at Obakunle's house. But at that point, like, Ife had already been born when I met Obakunle and used to hang out at his house. And then Kenzie came along, and I was like, well, I'm getting deeper into being part of an African centric community. So I want certain things to happen as close as possible. So he came and he did a naming ceremony for Kenzie and for Ife. Then I was still doing things with him. As a matter of fact, when I was pregnant with you, I hosted Igunuku. I was the mistress of ceremonies.
Full circle moments.
I was the mistress of ceremonies. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. But no, I didn't even think about doing another one. I didn't think about doing another one. Y'all probably do need another one. I know Ife got one when she went through rites of passage,
Mm-hmm.
but the rest of you didn't get one. That's something to think about, like really doing one. Because you're never too old to have a naming ceremony. Maybe you can pick your own name and that'll be your middle name that you pick for yourself.
I like my name. That's hard.
Well, I'm glad you like your name. I put a lot of time into picking your name. All of you, that it was not an easy job. It was not easy. It was worth it though. That was the best part. Not the best, but one of the most engaging parts was going through the list of names in the books and just like we had, what's some of the names? I think I have the paper upstairs. Aziza, shoot. Aziza sticks out, and I don't know why. Hadia, Naima, that was the name. Naima,
Yeah.
that was the name your father and I fought over. I like Naima. He did not like Naima.
He didn't like it. I like that name.
I like it too. He didn't care for it. He didn't care for the meaning.
Oh, that's not even mean.
Prosperity and wealth.
Oh, that's the prosperity one. The prosperity
Mhm.
name.
He was like, no.
He didn't
What if
want to
she's
set me up.
poor? What if she's a dick? I'm like, come on, dude.
I'm
He didn't.
screaming. That's so funny. That is so funny. When y'all
It
found
didn't fly.
Akua, did y'all find it with an A or an E?
An A.
Okay.
It's
And
not, it's Akua, not Ekua.
yeah, I've seen some spellings with an E, but I'm sure that's just regional difference.
It's regional. All of that is regional. Because you were supposed to have an H at the end of your name. And I'm like, I don't like the way that looks. Yes, I did that.
Oh, and that's fine. I've seen it when I see variations of my name. I'm like, that's wrong. That don't look right.
No, it's not wrong. I just chose not to put an H at the end of it because I was like, ooh, that's a lie. So I just left it like
I was
that.
just about to say, if you kept the H, I would be extra and I would do capitals on both sides,
Yes, you would.
like a bridge.
Didn't even think about it like that. But your name was supposed to have an H, and Subira's name was not supposed to have an H. But I didn't like her name just ending in an A. I was like, there's something missing. I'm gonna put an H there.
And it worked out. It's nice.
Yeah, it worked out fine.
You should talk about how you got on us about make sure people pronounce our names correctly and why that was almost an ass whooping if we let it slide.
Because I have this thing. Okay, so as a parent, you try to do better than what your parents did with you, right? So if you see things that were like a gaping hole, you try to plug that up so your children don't have to go through that, right? So the story behind my name is that that's it. Like we couldn't think of another name, so we landed on this one. No thought to that because my mother wanted to name me Yolanda. My father wanted to name me Sylvia. My father's mother wanted to name me Penelope so she could call me Penny. And I'm like, I only met the woman twice in my whole life. I would have been mad as hell. And my uncle Solis from Puerto Rico, he thought my middle name was Denise. So when you put all of that together, they could not they could not land on they couldn't land on a name. They just could not decide on the name. So they heard the name Karen, they landed on Karen. It was like no thought to it. It was no thought process behind it. It was no thought process behind it. So you would like to think that you meant enough to your parents that they will put some thought to your name. They weren't just pulling names out of a damn hat. They put some kind of thought behind it. And it wasn't just, that's what we came up with. You would want to think that you meant more or that your energy was significant. You know what I'm saying? And then you always want someone to call you like a nickname or something. And that really bothered me. I'm like, my name, my first and last name only comes out to 3 syllables. What's wrong? Those type of things. Because as a kid, that's what you think about. So I decided that when I have kids, I want their names to have meaning. Even if I named y'all after somebody. And then after we took the time to name you. And you got to remember back in the 80s and the 90s and whatnot, people were not trying to pay attention to Black children's names or Black names in general. Even when I was a little girl, a popular name when I was growing up, when Black people started to not name their children Margaret or Violet, like they were really trying to find their African or Black identity. A
Mhm.
big name, a popular name was always Keisha. Keisha, La Keisha, Ta Keisha. It was just some kind of Keisha, or it was Tisha. I went to school with so many Keishas and Tishas. It's like, wow. But people were just trying to, and the joke was, oh, this long name is spelled all these different ways, and it sounds this one, and the way it's spelled is not the way it sounds. And then Black people started talking about Black people and how ignorant their names are and all of this. And I'm like, no, that's not what we do. That's not what we do. And even if the name doesn't match, the sound of the name doesn't match the spelling, that parent at least took some time to think about it. So if we took the time out to really go through names and really sit down and really talk about and discuss names and destiny and purpose and putting y'all on the right track and asking the creator to like help us pick a name for you specifically, then you are to have people pronounce your name. Because when people do not pronounce your name, then you give them the power to rename you. You've given up some part of you. Your name is significant. So when you allow people to call you out of your name, they're trying to belittle you. They don't see you as this unique person or a person at all. Same thing they did when we were slaves. They came up, we had names. We had meaningful names. Then they gave us names like Toby and Betty. They gave us those names because number one, they could not pronounce our names. They didn't understand that our names there was a rich heritage to our names. So people need, when you demand that people pronounce your name and learn your name, then you're telling them unequivocally, I am a person. I have a culture. I have a purpose. I have a destiny. Someone spent time to name me because they care about me. So if you can't pronounce my first name, that's okay. Call me Ms. Presswood. Call me Ms. Young. If you don't want to do that, pronounce my name correctly. And if you can't do that, don't call me anything. It is that simple.
How do you gauge or how do you fill out a baby's energy?
How do you feel? That's a really good question. So the way I did it, it's what was going on. I think about what was going on with me prior to getting pregnant and during the pregnancy. How was I feeling, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually? A lot of it is that your father and I were in a good place together, because that always went like this. So when we were in a good place when I was pregnant with you, what was the birth like? What what did you feel like? Like, what did you feel like when I held you? What did you feel like when you opened your eyes and looked at me for the first time? What feeling did I get from that? It's just it's a personal connection, right? Mothers have a connection to their babies. Like, I knew when I got pregnant. It's like, oh shit, I'm pregnant. Okay, it's not verified, but I'm pregnant. It's like you feel different. It's like it's a different feeling. And then when the baby finally comes, it's this connection. It's just this, it's a connection. Where the eyes going? Are the eyes locked on you, or the eyes somewhere else? Like, how are they feeling? It's just, I don't know. I can't, it's hard to explain. Were you were always calm. You were calm. You were you were this force, right? Of all of your siblings, you were the only one who put me on 2 week bed rest. With you, I was on a 2 week bed rest. I was always active. I was active with all of you. So that was just that. But you put me on a 2 week bed rest. I thought you were going to fall out with every step I took. Like, I was walking my legs like this because I thought you were going to fall out.
Not
I
the
had
tootie tie.
more, huh?
I said not the tootie tie.
Honey, I had more Braxton Hicks contractions with you,
Hmm.
like those false contractions. They put me on a 2 week bed rest with my legs up. And I'm like, is she gonna not she I said, is it gonna slide back down? Like, why do I have to have my legs? I was like, how does that work? So after 2 weeks, went back to work, and it was fine for a while. It was fine. Then you were supposed to be born on the 19th.
I came when I was supposed to get here.
Yeah, okay, let me retract. You were scheduled, you were charted to be
They
born on
thought,
the 19th.
and they
They
thought
thought,
wrong.
yeah, they thought wrong because I didn't know the exact date or time that I got pregnant. I'm like, every time I have sex, I really don't write the date and time down. It's like, yeah. And boy, so here's another thing, like with the energy. After you were born, and it was just so much commotion happening, was just a lot going on, that they diapered you really quickly and gave you to me. And I'm looking at you and you're looking up at me, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like a boy. So I was like, it doesn't feel like a boy. It didn't look like a boy, even though you had like no hair.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, like no hair. They had to stick the bow to your hair with KY jelly. And I'm looking like, it doesn't feel like a boy. It just doesn't feel like a boy. And then your father said, well, did you check? And I said, no, really? I didn't have time to check. I said, did you check? You were standing there looking. Did you check? Because we both watched you being born. Like, I had them set a mirror so I could see what was happening for a change. And he said, I didn't check. I said, because it doesn't feel like, this is after we called Ife and Kenzie and told them they had a little brother. I'm like, but it doesn't feel like a boy. Shall we open that diaper? I'm like, huh, huh, that's a vagina. That's not a penis. It's like, it's a girl. So they had to come back and they had to redo your bracelets and everything.
That's funny.
And that was just the kind of energy. It's like it just didn't feel. It's just a feeling. It's a feeling. Like Ife was demanding. Ife required a lot. She's still high maintenance. Ife remained high maintenance. And Kenzie just needed to be held all the time. He needed that like up close, like all of the time. But you were so even, like, and so predictable. Just even keel, just even. Like there were times when they had to wake you and move you around so you can nurse, so they can bring you to me so you can nurse. And you would come in and I would hold you and you would nurse and nurse. And then when you get tired, you go, hmm. And then you would go to sleep and you would sleep for hours. And I'm like, huh. But then you were also my smallest baby in weight.
Yeah.
So maybe your stomach got full faster and stayed full. So yeah, you can tell things. Yeah. Y'all are still the same as y'all were when you were babies. Your demeanor is the same. It's
Yeah.
just now, more pronounced. I think the only one of you that has changed a lot, not a lot, but it was more prevalent is Shamari, from the baby to now. But
Mhm.
you were the same, just very steadfast in your thinking, very intellectual, very here's point A, there's point B. Why we gotta go all over the place? Why can't we just get from A to B? I don't understand. That's always been you.
Literally.
It's like I would I would put your brother and your sister down for a nap. Honey, I tried to get you down. You were like looking at me, and your face would say, I never told you I was tired. I'm not tired. I'm gonna sit right here. Oh, you just want to put and roll in your eyes and would not lay down. I'll put you to lay down and you sit back up. The fuck? What is this? Because I was not used to that. This thing is so, because you were always so, I don't want to say headstrong, but if you didn't want to do it, you weren't going to do it. And you're like that now. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. It's like, damn, like what am I going to do to convince this child to do this damn thing? And somewhere in there is a nurturer.
You
It's
know,
not at the forefront.
really, and that
You
surprised me. That really surprised me too, honestly. I'm like, am I really about to sit here and do this?
you are the auntie.
Yes, I am about to really sit here and do this.
What are you doing?
Whatever they ask me to do.
Oh, yeah, you do. You do. You are the auntie.